No, don't, no,
Swallow.
you've got to focus on what you're doing before we can move on to the next thing, which is to talk about focus, right? That's the way I look at it.
Well, so I will state that there's some really piss poor planning on my part. That's
Well,
really the bottom line of it. It's just piss poor planning.
right, right. Well, you know what they say? What is it they say? I think Thomas Merton said this. Clarity affords focus, right? So
Hmm.
when planning is piss poor, clarity kind of can fall by the wayside, right?
Yep, that is correct. Well, and yeah,
So I'm
yeah, we
look
can.
and I'm trying to focus on like where is our there it is. Oh geez, you know what's interesting is this is actually episode 600 overall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh?
So we didn't really what I was hoping to do. See, this is again piss poor planning, right? And its
Yeah.
impact on focus. Initially, my thought was, let's get some questions from the audience for this one. Let's make it a live
Hmm.
stream. Let's do all that.
Hmm.
No, didn't do it.
Nah.
Didn't do it.
Oh.
And I think that when, you know, we don't take time to plan, that's part of it. But
Hmm.
also when we have so much going on, it's difficult to narrow that down. Like as we're recording this, I'm a few days from fulfilling to the Kickstarter backers the
Hmm.
productivity diet,
Your book.
right? And
Hmm.
today earlier as we, before we hit
I'm
record,
one of those backers, by the way.
thank you. Well, you at long last you will be getting the productivity diet. And earlier today I had a workshop with my friend Steve Dotto, and this week has been, and, next week we have office hours in my community. Like there's so many things going on. Plus my son's in a play, so there's a lot of
Well.
back and forth. Yeah, he's killing it as one of the sidekicks. So a secondary part, but he's got a solo and all that stuff. So there's a lot of things going on, and when you have a lot of things going on, focus is hard to come by.
Hmm. Indeed.
What do you
Hmm.
do when this happens, Patrick? Like what are some of the things that you do?
Well, and are we recording this right now? We're
We
recording
are
this.
we've been recording this since I said I'm hitting record.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I apologize to the audience because yeah, here's the thing. Just before this, my daughter had her school conferences today for this semester, um, and I was so we had to do that, but those were scheduled until noon, and I knew that there would be a little bit of exit time required there.
Sure.
Um, and then, of course, we ran into some friends on the way out, and in this particular case, there were friends we kind of needed to talk to for some future planning thing. So basically, yeah, it took me longer to get out of there than I
Sure.
expected, which I had planned ahead. I kind of looked at the schedule. I knew this was going to happen. I let Mike know earlier this week, sent him a message saying, "Hey, I might be a few minutes late
Yep.
because of this thing going on before." But once again, that that was about planning, right? And
Mhm.
being focused on what was to come. But the one thing I didn't consider, and this is very a long way towards an apology to the audience, um, was that I hadn't really scheduled any time in there to actually eat something,
Yeah.
which being diabetic, it's very important for me
Mhm.
to to kind of have an idea of when I'm going to eat and plan for that. And so I can make sure that I have the right things to eat. Because the worst time to make a decision about what you're going to eat, especially when you're diabetic, uh, is uh,
Now.
is when you're hungry. Yeah.
Yeah, now, which is
Um.
that's
uh,
really quickly, uh, even when you're not and you're trying and
yeah.
you're getting I mean, so I only recently, like literally the month of March, which is when we're recording this, my focus
Hmm.
is on health. So what I
Hmm.
started to do, we plan our evening meals and I have my breakfast
Hmm.
planned, right? So I have my oatmeal and I
Hmm.
instant pot it and all that. I wasn't planning my lunches. And that's where I was falling
Hmm.
apart. So now
Yeah.
I have like every Sunday, I or every depending, I mean, but Sunday's my planning day. So again,
Hmm.
eating my own dog food. Not literally, but the figure of speech.
All right. Figuratively. Yeah.
I use my sous vide machine to get some chicken prepared. And that way, all I have to
Mhm.
do is sear it. And the other day I'm like, oh, I want shrimp instead. So I pulled it out of the freezer. Like all of those plans allow me to eat. And I've had not only
Yeah, yeah,
great meals, but my weight's dropped. Like, so
yeah,
immediately,
yeah.
for those that are like,
You see results.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So back where you're saying, I'm just saying that
Yeah, well, yeah.
just that small thing can make a huge impact.
Right. Yes. Yes. Definitely. Um, but I didn't plan to eat, so I came in just really hungry. My blood sugar dropping. Not a good situation to be in, especially when you're going to spend an hour talking with somebody.
Hmm.
Because trust me, for those who are, hypoglycemic, diabetic, what have you, it really impacts your thinking and your ability to what? Focus.
Yeah, that thing.
Yes, that thing, right? Um, yeah. So on the way up, I grabbed some healthy Trex Mix, not
Yep.
the stuff that's filled with candy, as some Trex Mixes are. And God bless those that that can do that. Mine is just nuts with some raisins.
Hmm.
Very healthy. And so yeah, the first bit of this one, I didn't realize we were recording. I was shoving handfuls of that in my mouth.
Yep.
Uh,
But the whole point of this is,
so
again,
so
remember everybody that's listening. If you're like, oh, I can't believe it, like this is an organic conversation. If Patrick and I were
yeah.
sitting, we would probably be doing this over lunch, literally right now.
Oh, totally, totally, totally. Yeah. So, but here's something else
Sure.
related that I wanted to talk about since
Yeah.
I was just talking about conferences because as listeners have now come to know, basically, everything I learned at this point in my life, I learned from my daughter. Um, and she's an endless source of inspiration, especially for these discussions. But one of the things that so, conferences
Hmm.
conferences at her school have changed somewhat.
Okay.
So they keep playing around with the format. Um, but the current format is that you can pick three of her teachers to actually have private face-to-face conferences with, but that the other half of your time is a student led conference. So in her advisory, which is effectively like homeroom,
Yep.
right?
We have the same thing.
Yeah, her advisor, you go there, but basically the student leads it and basically goes through their classes and tells you what their strengths and weaknesses are in both and how they think they're doing and what the things they can improve on and things like that. It's actually pretty great because you get a real sense of how the student is thinking about these things. So I'm not gonna throw out any shade, but um one of the interesting things she said, she recognizes she's been much better about about getting things turned in on time, and that sort of thing. But one of the interesting things she said she was going to do and get better at was essentially setting an intention
Hmm.
of what she wanted to achieve, what she wanted to focus on for like before each class,
Right.
right?
Interesting.
So if she knows that that chemistry they're going to be working on this, that, and the other thing, she wants to work on actively setting an intention of what she wants to focus on in that particular this, that, and the other thing, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Which either this or that or the other thing, right? And what she really wants to make sure to get out of it. And I thought, huh, huh, that's a strategy. That's a strategy I
See,
think a
she
lot of us could learn from,
See, but the thing
you
is,
know?
she's not just you said earlier, you're learning from her at this point. Like
Yeah.
everything you're learning from her. Yes, you learned
Yeah.
that, but you learned that she's learned that from you.
Yeah, well, I do think that that's the advantage to like, setting a word for the year
Hmm.
or
Theming, any of that
a
stuff.
theming,
Yep.
any of that stuff, right? Is just it's a way of taking the lighthouse of your mind and turning it into a spotlight,
Yeah.
right?
And I think we need to look for opportunities for that, like Beatrice has, in those things that we wouldn't normally take the time to do that in, like the things that
Yeah,
happen on the regular. Like, so, I've used
yeah.
this example tons of times. Like, you drive around your neighborhood around the holiday season, you see somebody with their holiday lights up, and you're like, "Oh, I should do that." But then you don't put it down on your list, right? You
Mhm,
don't schedule
mhm,
it, and you don't have to
mhm,
schedule it for like, I need to schedule it for this day. You can schedule when you want to think about the day that you want to do it, right? Like, so
mhm,
the
mhm,
task
mhm,
doesn't have to be put up holiday lights. The task
mhm,
could be decide when to put up holiday lights. Like, that's all you
mhm,
need to get in
mhm,
there, because
mhm,
if you use tools, whether it's tech or and again, tech can either be digital or analog, to do that, it
mhm,
frees your mind up to, wait for it, focus on the things that really matter in the here and the now, the things that are going to
mhm.
require your deeper levels of intention, or whatever spheres of attention. They're going to require you to kind of dig in deeper, to be,
Mhm.
again, more qualitative around this stuff. So,
Yeah.
when I get it's funny. My wife and I are watching this show on Netflix. It just came out. We binged it, called Running Point.
Okay.
It's Kate Hudson is the star,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's a Netflix show. It's funny, and it's Mindy Kaling, and Ike
Mm,
Barinholtz are involved in
mhm,
the writing and
mhm,
such. And
mhm.
it is one of the things that happens in the episode. And if you have not seen it yet, I'm gonna. It's spoiler alert. There's a bit of a spoiler here, a little bit of a
Okay,
spoiler. Okay, so there is a player who is struggling with his free throw shooting. Okay.
okay.
So they bring in somebody to help him with his free throw shooting. And I'm not going to spoil all of that part. But what the person starts doing is they're shooting granny shots. Now, you know what a
Mm.
granny shot is, right, Patrick? It's like,
Mhm,
yeah, underhand,
mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm.
Um, how many people in the NBA? Because remember, this is a professional basketball team that Kate Hudson's character is running here, loosely based on the LA Lakers. Uh,
Yeah.
how many NBA players do you know shoot granny shots?
None,
Right.
right?
Um, So this player shoots them and is 100% nailing them way better because they were shooting terribly.
Mhm.
They get into the game. I think it's they get in the game, and the players are there. He's surrounded by his peers. Do you think he
Right.
still shoots granny shots?
Uh, well, I mean, the good television of it would be yes,
The good
but the
television of it,
reality would be no.
right? But the good television of it is actually no, he does not initially because his peers
Right.
are kind of, but then eventually he does, and I'm
Yeah.
not gonna spoil why he does and all that stuff because there's more to the story there. But if I remember correctly, and I'm gonna look it up when, before we wrap up, I believe Bob Cousy shot granny shots for 3 free throws. There was a all-time NBA player that was in the modern
Huh.
era that shot them. I'm actually gonna
Huh.
search for this. But what the
Huh.
reason I bring this
Huh.
up is, it dawned on me that we'll often focus on the thing that we're expected to do externally,
Mhm.
and we'll forget what we need to do internally. So when someone says to me, why, what you put hoses away on your to-do list? Why? Like, shouldn't you just know that you should do that? And there's this scoffing that can occur.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and we can be susceptible to that because it's a societal
Mhm.
thing. It's like, well, you're right. Maybe he's right.
Mhm.
Maybe I should do this or whatever. And you
Mhm.
got to cast that
Mhm.
aside because the reason you wrote it down in the first place and made it a recurring
Mhm.
task in Todoist or OmniFocus or whatever is because you know that it's the best thing for you. So
Yeah, well, and you have a history of, well, I have missed doing that enough that I know that if I want to get it done, I've got to make it a thing, and I've got to, like, as I often have said, to-do lists are wish lists,
right,
right? Until you actually take action on something, it's not. There's a reason why it's on a to-do list and not on your calendar, right?
right,
The calendar is when you decide to take action. Now, one can say, well, yeah, but I don't put those things on my calendar. Well, okay, that's fine. You don't have to. But the truth of the matter is that you do those things at a particular date on a particular date and at a particular time, at which point it is on your calendar, whether or not you actually put it on your calendar or not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard. It happened,
right.
during the sphere of time, and nothing happens outside of space or time.
But
Right.
that's the intention part that Beatrix was talking about, that we're talking
Yes.
about, like an intention that is not either scheduled or refined or put in a place that's going to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you give it attention is
Mm-hmm.
powerless, right? By the way, it
Yeah.
wasn't Bob Cousy, it was Rick Barry. So
Huh?
he is actually one of the greatest shooters in NBA history. And I'll be honest, I used AI to look this up because it's very fast. He used the underhand technique throughout his career, and he had a career free throw percentage of 89.3%.
That's insane.
And
That's an
despite the
insane percentage.
stigma, again, of it being uncool, he advocated
Yeah.
for it. He even said to Shaquille O'Neal,
Yeah.
who famously is terrible at free throws, to use
Yes.
it, and Wilt Chamberlain. And what's interesting,
Yeah.
and again, take this with a grain of salt. This is just a ad hoc quick search, but I mean, AI is getting better and better. Chamberlain actually used the underhand technique in the 61-62 season, which included his favorite 100-point game, but he abandoned it despite the fact that his free throw percentage improved. So,
Hmm.
so we're all
Very
susceptible to
interesting.
that, right? But
Yeah.
so even
Yeah.
when proof is there, even when you have empirical data that doing things the way that is more effective and accurate and better for you, these
Mm-hmm.
external forces that wreak havoc on us can kind of keep us from maintaining it, which is essentially stealing our focus.
Yeah. Well, and whoa, sorry about that. And not just external, but I think it's the external getting to the internal,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's the I mean, the truth of the matter is that we take those external voices and turn them into internal fears, right?
Yep.
And that's the danger, right? I mean, you can have I know people who are really impervious to external pressure, right? Just and it's because they don't, they take that external pressure and they do not do anything with it. They just let it stay external, right?
Right.
They don't focus on it. But but
But the oh,
I do think that that's part of it, right?
yeah.
They don't take the lighthouse of what's going on outside of them and put a spotlight on how to on changing that on the inside, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Um, yeah, and I think that it's really that's really rare, people that are able to do that. I want to make sure that I give a lot of grace to those that you know don't need any external help to have that internal voice mess with their minds. But it is that setting of intention and correct intention. One of the things I'm really proud of my wife for, um, we both have been doing a word of the year exercise for
Mhm.
a few years now. It's not something we used to do, it's something that we started doing and found it to be really good at focus for the year. Um, but she changed her word. The word that she had initially chosen for the year, while great, while certainly a way to set focus, wasn't quite capturing um, what she really meant behind it,
Right.
right? And so she chose a different word. Um, and I really like it for a number of reasons. Um, and But the truth of the matter is that what that did was it actually better set what she wanted her focus to be,
Mm,
right?
right.
You know, And I think that that's the other thing to consider too,
Can I
right?
ask? Can I ask you
Is
real
that
quick?
focus can change.
Sure, sure. Can I ask? You don't have to share what the word is, but is it a radical shift? Was it a radical change, or was it word adjacent, or was it a radical departure?
It depends on how you look at it.
Contextual.
I will.
Okay.
It's contextual. So what I will say is uh, the beauty of the word that she chose.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote a great post about this on her site very recently. And I'll have you link to it in the show notes
Sure.
because I don't want to give it away. I want people to be able to read
Absolutely.
it, and I want her to be able to tell the reasons why, not me. Um, but is that it can work in a lot of different ways contextually, um, and appear and engage in different ways depending upon that context. And I think that that is the beauty of it, is that it was able to better capture the breadth, the not breath but bread.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I never say it without sounding synonymous, of what of where she wanted her focus to be for the year, and once it's solidified, it makes a lot of sense.
And this can harken back to our episode on nuance, because I think that would be
Oh
part of it. I
yeah.
would imagine, right? The
Oh
idea of
yeah, yeah,
nuance.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And also I think the idea of just kind of being flexible,
Mm-hmm.
right? Needing something that was that you could end up applying in a lot of different ways.
The Goldilocks factor kind of thing, right? Where it can
Yeah.
fit into, yeah. In the productivity diet, which, as we're recording this, isn't out yet, but we touched on this as we kind of
Soon.
began. Oh yeah, it's
Soon.
coming. Like as we're recording this, it's less than a week away. I touch on, I talk about attention pass, and again, focus being nuanced. I really wanted to explore a theory that I'm calling like the spheres of attention. So like it's kind of almost like a bullseye of sorts, right? When you're looking at
Mhm.
a target. And what's interesting is I kind of allude to the idea of Ted Lasso in that scene where he's playing darts. And for those who haven't seen it, I'll link to the video in the show notes. But basically, the idea is, uh, you know, um, Ted. We alluded to it actually with curiosity, like be curious, not judgmental. But another takeaway I got from that was because I don't know how to play darts. I don't know. I have no clue. So my assumption is that you always want to hit the bullseye. That's what you always want to do. But that's not necessarily true, right?
Mm.
And so there's a
Mhm.
nuance there. And I thought about this with attention because I think that there's certain things that you need to hit the bullseye with, but then there's others that you don't. So I have this theory. I'll kind of paint it with broad strokes, but it's in the book. There's the widest level, which is noticing. Rob Walker has this great book called The Art of
Mhm.
Noticing, and he has a
Mhm. Mhm.
Substack, I think, that talks about it. So it's
Mhm.
like more
Mhm.
passive. Like it's not as it's
Mhm.
deep. You notice something, right? Like again,
Mhm.
the 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 holiday lights, right? Oh, I noticed that,
Mhm.
right? Then
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
awareness is one step in, right? Because it's lingering, right? It's got some meaning
Mhm.
to it. It's not something that you with sometimes you notice things and it really doesn't affect you. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
I see that, right?
that's the I should do that is
Yeah, awareness is heightened, right? And again,
Mhm.
every
Mhm.
sphere is heightened. Then we get to focus, right? Like focus is okay, now
Mm.
we're engaging. Now it's like, all right,
Mhm.
it's a selective state. Our intention is being
Mhm.
filtered, right? But
Now
then
I'm deciding when I'm gonna do those
yeah, yeah, yeah.
lights. Yeah.
And then the final one, which I don't think we talk about it enough. We get to focus, but then there's a layer, I believe, a sphere that's deeper than that. It's concentration.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah, yeah,
intensity
yeah.
level of focus, which
Yeah, sure.
but we hear, so when we
That's
hear,
the I'm changing the light.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
taking the light step.
I'm in the process of doing that, and that's all I'm doing. It's the
Mhm.
be here
Mhm.
now, as
Mhm.
opposed to the
Mhm.
do there then, for lack of a
Mhm.
better term,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so while it's a theory and something that I've kind of, which is when you talk about like the elements of time crafting, I think that they fit into that quite nicely. It just goes to show that not all focus is equal. And when we try to do that, we actually, I believe, can short circuit our focus.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. No, and I agree. I think that kind of understanding those steps and that pathway and that bullseye helps you better understand the role of focus and the reason why it matters, right? And that these are things that you're doing anyway,
Yeah.
right? The truth of the matter is that you don't have to know this stuff. You don't have to read the book to
No,
do these things,
no.
right? What knowing the function of how this stuff works and the various layers does is now you can turn it into a tool.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
it's not something that you just like happen to do.
Hmm.
As now you can say, oh, well, now that I know how how this goes from here to there, now I can actively be a part of and decide how those things happen and when and 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 take it intentionally from here to there on my own dime, on my own schedule, right?
Well, and it's not prescriptive either in that, like, you can go from noticing to concentrating really quickly. Like, you don't have to
Sure.
g and I think that when we think about frameworks and systems and approaches especially, we are looking for, and this is, I think, a lot to do with the technology of the day and the fact that there's step by step by step. We often look at, like, recipes step by step by step. I literally,
Mhm.
before we hit record, speaking of focus, I was preparing our dinner for tonight. It's not the
Okay.
recipe you gave me, but it's close. The chicken one that you gave me a long time ago with the cans and all that
Oh,
stuff, which I made
wow.
before and I
Okay.
love
Yeah.
it. But we're doing like a pumpkin chili, a turkey pumpkin chili, right? Like,
Okay. Yeah.
and we're using the Instant Pot for it, and so I
Hmm.
look. This is literally how my day is orchestrated today, just to kind of give everyone a bit of a bird's eye view. It's Friday. Friday does not have a daily theme, so it's my cheat day. So I can use other ways to kind of guide my attention throughout the day. Well,
Hmm.
one of the things is
Hmm.
it literally is cook dinner, and I actually have, the great thing about Todoist is I was able to go, oh, this is what the recipe I want to use. So I linked it automatically to it. It's in Todoist. I can just click on the link and it shows me the recipe. However, I noticed earlier on in the week, oh, this is a 6 to 8 hour slow cooker one if I want the
Hmm.
optimal results. If I want it
Hmm.
to be
Hmm.
a quicker result, then I have to put it on high for 3 to 4.
Hmm.
If I want it to be a pressure cooker, which the Instant Pot allows, it would be a
Hmm.
hour-long process in its
Yeah.
entirety. So now I have a choice. Which way do I want to go? Well, I'm looking
Yeah.
at my calendar, to your point. I just
Okay.
finished
Yeah.
delivering a webinar. I have about 45 minutes. I'm like, if I do everything, I can
Yeah.
get it ready to go. But
Yeah.
I also looked at oh,
Yeah.
we have navy beans. Well, they need to be soaked overnight. So we
Hmm.
did that. And then
Yeah.
we cooked. So all of these things have led to, literally, as you were texting me, you're like, I'm going to be, just so you know, I'm on my way to, like, no worries. I had just finished not only getting the Instant Pot started, but dishes were washed. The kitchen is clean. The one thing I almost forgot to do, but noticed this, was, oh, Colton's got to play tonight. He has to be
Mm.
at the theater by 5:30. That means he needs
Mhm.
to eat by 5. This is no
Mhm.
longer an 8-hour recipe. This is at the
Mhm.
edge
And
of the
now a
slow.
1 hour
So it's so
recipe.
so it's a sick. No, 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 no. I was still able to make it a
Oh,
slow
okay.
cooker, like the slowest level, but it couldn't be 8 because I finished at 10:30 my time, right? So that would mean
Gotcha.
8 hours would put us at 6:30. Now it's the 6 hour. So I'm at the edge of
Gotcha.
that. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, good thing." So what was great about that whole process is like the fact that I did it at the time I did it If I had waited till after our conversation, the earliest it would be, the most I could do would be a fast slow cooker as
Yeah.
opposed to a fast pressure cooker. I was on the edge of the slow and low, which is what you want for chili. You want a chili to be
Yeah.
slow and low. So
Yeah. The flavors meld better. Just all of it
so
just comes out so much
all of
better.
those spheres of attention that I was talking about we're in play. The concentration,
Yeah.
this is the only thing I'm doing. The awareness. Oh, well, earlier in the week, I was aware that I needed to soak the beans. I needed to make sure we had
Hmm.
this. And then the noticing part, focus, obviously, like as I got deeper into it, I started with focus, got deeper into the concentration part. Because I was able to focus on the kitchen in its entirety, not just the Instant Pot. And I know I'm going to the weeds here a little bit, but the final thing was I went back from concentration to noticing really quickly, like, oh, hold up. Colton can't be here to eat dinner if I wait 8 hours. It's got to be 6.5.
Hmm.
Okay, done. I
Hmm.
changed it. We're on our way. And right
Hmm.
now, I can
Hmm.
smell dinner cooking right now upstairs, even though I'm in my study with a nice, beautiful. And this is where we unconsciously and subconsciously, sometimes one
Yeah.
more than the other, these things are all happening. So if you
Hmm.
literally use the tools, not only this being a tool, but use tools at your disposal, the calendar, a paper to-do list, a digital, whatever it is, it can get you to where you want to be so that, by the way, I'm not doing this for myself. I can make myself anything I want for dinner. I'm making a healthy dinner for my wife, my son, and the international student that's living with us right now because Grace is off in Montreal. And you know how I feel? Flipping fantastic because
Yeah. Yeah.
I did everything I wanted to do and I was in the right space at the right time. So when you're dealing with focus, it's not just about time. In fact, it's I'd say time is a factor. It's also about space.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like I said earlier, when it comes to the things that we do, everything happens within time and space. Nothing happens outside of time and space. And the moment that you understand and you recognize that, you begin to understand that well, as I have at least somewhat amongst certain circles famously written before, saying no is saying yes to other things,
Mhm.
right? Well, saying yes is saying no to other things. The converse of that is also true, right? And doing this thing right now means that there's you know 100 other things that I'm not doing that I
Right.
could be doing in the exact same time and space, right? Um, and so what focus is a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
And the
is a
deeper you go
choice.
into those spheres, the more committed to the choice you become.
Choice you become, right? And the as I've talked about on this show before, as I've written about, every single thing we do in our lives during our waking hours is nothing but a series of choices strung together. um every single thing, everything, including being alive itself, choosing to be alive itself. For those of us who are mental illness survivors, we can tell you that being alive is a choice, right? It is a choice that sometimes is more difficult to make than other times. And so, yes, and this is the reason, this is where focus comes into play, right?
Yeah.
Because you're that is, like you said, a building commitment to a choice that you've made.
Speaking of choices, which we're going to link back to that episode as well, isn't it funny how all of our conversations seem to be interconnected in one way, shape, or form? It's not
Well,
just
I
because we're
mean,
doing them, but because
no,
they're
no, it's
elements.
yeah, we're doing the weed.
Yeah, exactly.
No, no, sorry, I couldn't resist.
We're doing the crossover. We're doing a crossover. We're doing whatever. We go back to the best.
Yes, 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 yes. We'll come up with
um.
another term.
So
But
yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead. I want to follow up in a sec, but let's go back to this. Yeah.
no, no, no. But I guess but here's the thing, right? There's a reason why all of this stuff is interconnected with and kind of um you know uh I almost want to say that, perhaps, what we should try to do is take all of this stuff and boil it down to a simple equation and call it the general theory of productivity, right?
Well, there's elements of this. See, to me, this is productiveness. Like the
Yeah.
elements we talk about are related to productiveness, whether it's alignment, whether it's focus, whether it's, I mean, curiosity, all the
Mhm.
things we've talked about are elements of, and again, they're almost every single one that we've talked about leans qualitative. Yes, they have quantitative opportunities and elements as well, but I
Mhm.
believe they lean qualitative.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're and we're what most of what we're talking about is the why behind the what,
Yeah.
right? And at the end of the day, the why matters because the why is what drives the what, right?
Right.
The
Hmm.
why is, the what becomes meaningless if there's no why behind it.
Yeah.
Um and so uh and so all of those things intersect. All of the things that we've discussed here, all of the episodes we've done on these various topics, they all intersect at that point of why,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
that's why it's qualitative, right? More so than quantitative, right?
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about here is, I mean, I don't think you know you could stop anyone on the street and ask them why focus is important, and they'll be able to give you an answer,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
They'll be able to say, why focus is important to them, right? And what they think focus means, right? But what we try to discuss on the show is why.
Hmm.
Why is it important? Why is it important to discover what it means, and not just what it means to your boss or what it might mean to your spouse, but what it means to you, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that you can find the reason why it works to do it, why you want to turn it into a tool versus just something that you do, why you want to wield it in a way that is very intentional.
So, before we wrap up, there's something I want to circle back to around choices and about, um, again, that qualitative, quantitative, like this all is related. And I'm going to circle back to what I did earlier, where I used AI to get me the information that I wanted quickly, simply, easily. Uh,
All hell our overlord.
well, I'm waiting for, that's why I'm curious because, again, it's not absolute. There's nuance to all of this, but I have found that through the use of AI in situations, it has allowed me to focus on the things that I can really truly only do and let some of the things that I don't need to go deep into be handled by, some form of AI. I have no doubt that you have your own thoughts on this. Um, so I'd love to hear, and I'm sure people who are listening are like, okay, I've made no secret that I will use it to help me springboard ideas and so on and so forth. But I also think you can't use it. It's not a zero sum game. It's not like, hey, I'm going to use it verbatim. I think that that's a mistake.
No.
What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on this guy, especially in relation to
Oh
focus?
boy. Wow, this is going to turn into a whole nother episode. I hope you can edit this into two. No, no, no. I'll
Well, this is episode 600. So this is the benefit.
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
not something that we intended, but it's going in that direction.
It's
So a
just the way
longer
it worked
episode
out. Yeah.
600 allows us to kind of go into this.
Well, I'm not going to make it too long because, like I
No.
said, I'm hungry. I need to eat something. But uh, here's we have to remember that AI is made of people.
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day, AI is is not coming up with original ideas. It's not coming up with original thought. We have, we can talk about the fact that machines can learn and they have to learn from something,
Hmm.
right? That's why it's called, a large language model,
Yeah.
right? That they need language that they can then sift through and come up with answers based upon that, right?
Hmm.
Um, AI at the current state can't just do that on its own. They have to suck up a lot of already existing human work,
Yep.
people, in order to be able to do that, right? Um, the danger becomes when, mm,
I think there's two types of danger, but go ahead. I want to hear yours.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
I
and I'm
would
going to be
say,
two is binary, but you know what I mean? Like two come to mind.
right. So right. So here's I guess what I would say. And number one, we need to remember that this is made of people. People make mistakes. People all the time, right? And they're hoovering up valid information. They're hoovering up invalid information. They're hoovering up disinformation. They're not. There's no deciding whether it's credible or not. It's
Right.
just all just we're going to suck it all up, and we're going to try to train the AI to decide what's credible and what's not. And even more, we're going to use humans to help us with that.
Yeah. Which now you've added another
Because
layer of error to the mix, whether
right,
by
exactly.
hook or by crook, right? Like,
But
whether
yeah,
it's,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. And so we need when we're using this, we need to remember that, right? Sure,
hmm,
AI can spit out the thing about Chamberlain and when he used the granny throw and all of that other stuff. But I don't know if you can just take that at face value.
no. And
I
yeah,
think you need to find the source. I think you
yep,
need to go read that source, and I think you need to look up. Like we can't just take it and run with that, and any more than we could with, to be honest with you, with Wikipedia,
right.
right? I mean, the nice thing about Wikipedia is, well, you can see the sources. The sources are right there at the bottom of the page, and you can go and read where the source was for that particular point in the article because, well, they actually do a footnote link to it. So for every sentence or paragraph or idea, there's a little one or a little two or a little three after it. Well, that links to the source, and then you can go and read the source of where they got that, and then you can decide whether that source was a valid source or not. Right? So we need to be doing the same thing with AI. We can't just take it at face value. Um,
Real quick, before
yeah,
you go to the next
yeah.
one, um, I did do while you were doing that, I looked
Mhm.
at the research and it got it right about Chamberlain, at least in the 100-point game. So the way I
Okay.
read it, if you go back and listen to what I said, it may be interpreted or interpolated or whatever you want to say that he used it for the entirety of that season. Again, there's nuance there. I don't know. I have not found anything in this quick Google search that indicates. And by the way, there's multiple sources I see this from, so it's not just one that says yes, he did it. And by the way, at the top of Google now, it says AI overview. So now your first shot isn't, no pun intended, isn't the things that Google's being paid to say. It's here's what AI is saying. But
Yeah. Here's what AI is saying based on the things that
yeah, so
people were paid to say.
it would be interesting to find out if he used it for the entirety of the season or just during the 100-point game. And why? Did he use it for the 100-point game because his arms got tired and he decided that would be an easier way because now he's using different muscles? Like, we don't know. And I would have to go deeper
Yeah,
into it. So there's that, right?
exactly. Right. And I was just that, and that brings us to the other thing, right? The AI can't, AI only knows what it knows. It can't know what it doesn't know.
Right.
Um,
It also doesn't have any
and,
it also doesn't have any ego to know the difference. Like, it can't present
no,
itself in that way, right? Like, there's a lot of people out there
exactly.
that know
Right.
that say they know things that they don't know. AI is actually being like,
Yeah.
I don't know, and it doesn't have any emotional connection to its data compared to a human.
Yes, as the great philosopher and war hawk Donald Rumsfeld once said, there are things we know. Right?
Yes.
Those are the known knowns. They're the
We'll
but
find the
but
quote.
then
We'll
there
put
are
it in
the
there
yeah, yeah, he ends with it, but then there are the unknown unknowns, the things
that
we
we
don't
don't
know,
know.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, and that's the thing that at least as it stands right now, AI doesn't have the ability to do, and only humans can do, right?
Yeah.
Only humans can know that there are unknown unknowns,
Right.
right? Um,
So you've
so,
touched on one of the things that I think is imperative, which is the understanding that the fallacy of accuracy, and your tolerance level in terms of precision around AI. But I think the other thing is,
mhm,
while it can heighten our ability to focus if we're giving it things that we don't necessarily need or want to focus on, it can also diminish our ability to actually do, weirdly enough, critical thinking. It can do just as
mhm,
much harm as good. If you're
mhm,
using it consistently,
mhm,
then you're going to lose the
mhm,
ability to allude back to actually know what you know, because it's really
mhm,
it's not unlike it will become the new version of I googled that once, right?
mhm,
As opposed to let me go deeper into that. And so
mhm,
the danger, I think, or the concern or whatever, is you'll stop at the surface. You'll stop at that noticing slash awareness level and won't go deeper into the focus or concentration level where it's like, okay, did Wilt Chamberlain actually do this? Why do I
mhm,
care? How can I relate this to
mhm.
my own life, to the work that I do? Because I can guarantee you that as soon as I brought this up, I'm like, I'm going to put this somewhere in my work. Like, I think it makes total sense, but I want to
Yeah,
make
exactly.
yeah, but I want to make sure that I'm doing it in a way that I can feel good about, not just in terms of my heart, but my head, where I can be able to
Mhm,
go, yes, I know this to be, true, or I know that this is um, some story or narrative that
mhm,
I can, use to help someone understand, hey, maybe it's okay to do something that looks weird or is uncool with the purpose of, in Chamberlain's case, scoring 100 points, or in someone else's case, hey, I want to turn my blog post that I wrote into a series of social media posts, so do that part and then do the mechanics, and I'll go in and do there's lots of things you can do, but the danger is, again, it's not an all or nothing thing. And we're unfortunately, and we talked about this in the nuance episode, um, the absolutes are becoming more prevalent, where there's this belief like this is this and this is that. And I wrote a post on my LinkedIn profile, I'll link to it too, about the center, and how the center, because it's so middle and so vast and it's so empty, that it can either be a space or it can be a vacuum. And
oh my gosh, yeah.
right now it feels in our world today, and we're not going to go too deep into,
Mhm,
that, but it feels like it's more of a vacuum than a space.
mhm,
And when it's a
mhm,
vacuum, the old Yeats poem where
mhm.
it says the center must hold, center nothing can hold in a vacuum.
Nope.
And again, when it comes to those spheres of attention, if if you turn that space into a vacuum, you can't get to concentration. You can't get to focus. You can't. Oh, your awareness is compromised, and your ability to notice is fractured because you're only noticing things based on the way they appear. And if
Mhm.
you stop there, that for everything, or for most things, I think that's where we run into real issues.
Yeah, yeah.
Patrick,
Alright.
this has been great. Episode
Yeah.
600 is in the books.
Wow.
I know, before I can't believe it. Next month we're going to talk.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Patrick.
Thank you. Next
Yeah.
next episode of PM Talks, which of course takes place on the second Wednesday of every month, it's going to be talking about adaptability, and we touched on that a little bit in this episode when we talked
Mhm,
about, and we're going to link to, of course, your wife's blog post, but adaptability plays a role in there as well.
mhm,
Before I ask where people can pick up the stuff that you've got going on, and the links, which we'll link to in the show notes. If you are interested in keeping up with what we're doing here on A Productive Conversation, subscribe to the show wherever you get it. Spotify. You can comment in Spotify. It's called following in
mhm,
Spotify, but you can comment
mhm.
and let us know what you think about focus and this theory of that I've shared, the spheres of attention, and whether or not
Let us know what you think about AI.
yeah, or where you can get what Patrick was eating when we hit record. Uh, you can
Yes.
also
Trader Joe's is the Go Trek mix.
There you go. There you go. And then of course, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. We're on YouTube as well, so you can subscribe on my YouTube channel. That's one way to support the show. Another is to check out the sponsors that you heard during our conversation that intermittently showed up. You go to mikevardy.com/podcast sponsors to check them out. You click on any of those links, helps out the show, and that way
Yeah.
they know we sent you. Don't forget the show notes will also be not just wherever you're listening to your podcast, but also at mikevardy.com/podcast 600. Patrick, where can people keep up with you and what's going on? I've still got your link to the book for you, of course. We'll make sure that we
Mhm.
continue to link to that. And anywhere else that people can keep up with what you've got going
Yeah.
on?
PatrickRhone.com will lead you to all the other spots and places and whatever, but PatrickRhone.net is my main daily blog, near daily. Some days I'm just too damn busy. Um, I'm focused on other things.
There you go.
But
There you go. Patrick, this has been great. Thanks again for taking the time today.
all right.
We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.